Wait, who is that woman? Conversations stopped, and heads turned towards the entrance. A tall black woman stood in the doorway, elegant, poised, and impossibly calm. The soft golden lights of the ballroom seemed to follow her as she stepped inside. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then someone whispered, "Isn't that Tabor Kellan's wife?" "No way. It can't be." Another guest stared in disbelief. "That's the woman he described as quiet and ordinary." Across the room, Tabor froze. His heart skipped a beat. Even after 7 years of marriage, Niara had a way of commanding attention without trying. She wasn't smiling for approval. She wasn't looking around for validation. She simply walked forward with effortless confidence. And somehow that made her impossible to ignore. Nobody knew that within a few hours, this same room would witness a revelation so shocking that it would destroy years of assumptions. But before that happened, 5 hours earlier. "Honestly, June, you're overthinking it." Tabor leaned back in his office chair while speaking on the phone. His voice carried the confidence of a man who believed he had life completely figured out. "What do you mean?" June laughed through the speaker. "I mean your wife. I've met her twice. She seems smart." Tabor rolled his eyes. "Smart is relative." At that exact moment, Niara entered the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. She paused when she heard her name. Neither man realized she could hear the conversation. June chuckled. "You sound harsh." "I'm being realistic." Tabor shrugged. "Niara is a wonderful woman. Kind, loyal, supportive. But there has to be a but." Tabor laughed. "But she's not exactly ambitious." Niara remained silent. His words landed harder than he realized. June sounded unconvinced. "What makes you say that?" "She keeps everything simple." Tabor swiveled in his chair. "No interest in business. No interest in competition. No desire to build anything major." Niara quietly placed the coffee on the desk. Tabor nodded his thanks without looking up. "Meanwhile, I'm managing a multinational corporation." June hesitated. "Maybe she just doesn't talk about her goals." Tabor laughed again. "Trust me, I know my wife." Niara's expression didn't change. She simply walked away. But something inside her hurt. Not because a stranger underestimated her, because her husband did. The one person who should have known her best. The one person who had watched her work late into the night. The one person who had seen her disappear into meetings she never explained. The one person who never bothered asking what she was actually building. As she walked upstairs, memories flooded her mind. The early years of their marriage. The tiny apartment. The dreams they used to share. The nights they stayed awake discussing the future. Back then, Tabor had been different. Hungrier, kinder, more curious. Success had changed him. Not all at once, little by little. Promotion after promotion. Award after award. Magazine cover after magazine cover. Each achievement made him slightly more convinced that he was the smartest person in every room, including his own home. Meanwhile, Niara had remained quiet. Not because she lacked ambition, because she had learned something important. People reveal more when they believe you're not a threat. And over the years, Tabor had revealed a side of himself she wished didn't exist. That evening, Tabor entered the bedroom. "You ready for tonight?" Niara sat before a mirror. "Almost." His eyes moved toward a simple dress hanging nearby. "You're wearing that?" Niara looked at him. "Why?" He hesitated. "Nothing." "What?" He laughed. "My classmates are pretty successful." Niara remained silent. "So, I just thought maybe you'd wear something a little more impressive." She stared at him. For a second, guilt flashed across his face, but only for a second. "I didn't mean it like that." "You did." Tabor sighed. "Niara, don't start." "Start what?" "An argument." She smiled sadly. "You always think honesty is an argument." That response bothered him, mostly because it was true. For a moment neither spoke. Then Tabor sat beside her. "You know I love you, right?" Niara looked into his eyes, and for a brief second she saw traces of the man she had married. The man who once believed in her. The man who once called her extraordinary. "I know," she said softly. "And I love you too." He smiled, relieved, completely unaware that love wasn't the issue. Respect was. As they drove toward the reunion, Tabor couldn't stop talking. "You should see what some of my classmates have accomplished." Niara stared out the window. "Really?" "Oh, absolutely." His excitement grew. "There are founders, investors, politicians." Then he laughed. "But none of them are doing what I'm doing." Niara glanced toward him. "You sound proud." "I am proud." His voice softened. "Shouldn't I be?" She nodded. "You should." Then she added quietly, "Just don't let pride become blindness." Tabor frowned. "What does that mean?" "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. And deep down, she knew it. By the time they arrived at the reunion venue, luxury cars lined the entrance. Valets rushed around. Guests stepped onto a red carpet. Camera flashes lit the evening. Tabor smiled immediately. This was his environment, his world. Recognition, status, admiration. As soon as they entered, old classmates surrounded him. "Tabor, look at you." Still dominating the business world. He shook hands and accepted compliments. Every word fed his ego. Every smile reinforced his image. And throughout it all, Niara stood quietly beside him, almost invisible, exactly as everyone expected. One woman approached. "You must be Tabor's wife." Niara smiled warmly. "Nice to meet you." The woman returned the smile. "So what do you do?" Before Niara could answer, Tabor answered for her. "She stays away from all the corporate madness." The group laughed. "Smart woman." "Honestly, I envy her." Another guest smiled. Meanwhile, Tabor can't stop talking about quarterly reports. More laughter. Niara forced a smile. But inside, disappointment continued to grow. Not because of the guests, because of him. Again and again, opportunities appeared for him to acknowledge her. Again and again, he chose not to. An hour later, the reunion reached full swing. Groups formed around the ballroom. Stories flowed. Achievements were compared. Successes were celebrated. Then came the moment that changed everything. A former classmate raised a glass. "Let's settle something." Everyone looked over. Who here became the most successful person from our graduating class? The room erupted with opinions. "Tabor! Definitely Tabor! No contest!" Tabor laughed modestly, but his smile revealed how much he enjoyed hearing it. Someone pointed toward Niara. "What do you think?" Niara looked up. "About what? Is your husband the most successful person here?" Several people laughed. Tabor folded his arms confidently. Waiting. Niara considered her answer carefully. Then she smiled. "I think success is complicated." The room grew quieter. "What does that mean?" Niara took a sip of water. "It means the most successful person isn't always the most visible one." Several people exchanged confused looks. Tabor chuckled. "That's a very philosophical answer." It wasn't meant to be. The conversation moved on. But several guests remembered her words, especially after what happened next. As the evening continued, whispers suddenly spread across the ballroom. People began checking their phones. Others looked toward the stage. Excitement started building. "What happened?" "I just heard tonight's Alumni Excellence Award winner arrived." "No way. They're here already." "Apparently." Tabor smiled. He had received numerous industry awards. Many people believed he was the obvious choice. One classmate leaned closer. "If they announce you tonight, we're throwing a party." The group laughed. Tabor raised his glass. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." But his confidence said otherwise. Across the room, Niara quietly checked the time. Then she stood. Tabor looked confused. "Where are you going?" "I need a few minutes." "For what?" She smiled. "You'll see." Without another word, she walked away. Tabor watched her disappear toward a private hallway, completely unaware that the next time he saw his wife, she wouldn't simply be entering a room. She would be walking into the moment that would change both of their lives forever. And the entire reunion was about to discover a truth that Tabor never saw coming. The conversations continued, but something felt different. A strange anticipation spread through the ballroom. Guests kept glancing toward the stage. Others kept checking their phones. The annual Alumni Excellence Award was about to be presented, and everyone knew this year's recipient wasn't just successful. They were legendary. Tabor adjusted his jacket and smiled politely as classmates continued congratulating him in advance. "Come on, Tabor, stop pretending. You've practically won already. I'd be shocked if it's anyone else." Tabor laughed. "You people are setting me up for disappointment." But secretly, he enjoyed every second of it. Years of success had trained him to expect recognition. Across the ballroom, another classmate approached. "Where's your wife?" Tabor glanced around. She stepped away. The man nodded. "She seems very reserved." Tabor smirked. "That's one way to describe her." The group chuckled. "Well, opposites attract." "Apparently." More laughter followed. What none of them realized was that several event organizers had suddenly become nervous. They kept speaking into earpieces. They kept checking the entrance. And then, the lights dimmed. The ballroom slowly quieted. A woman stepped onto the stage, holding an envelope. "Good evening, everyone.